Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1, regarding Terrans' behavior of late, written by Folk Off. It has come to my attention that many of the more recent recruits have noticed their Terran counterparts behaving stranger than usual. I can assure you there is no need for alarm. Terra is entering its solstice, and as such the Terrans are participating in their solstice traditions. The practice of bringing a tree into their living quarters is not for urination. The Terrans are still using the appropriate facilities. Rather, gifts to be exchanged on the specific date shall be stored under the tree. Terran footwear hung by the exhaust port are meant to be filled with small confections. I brought up the excess power draw from the frankly ridiculous number of small light emitters with the Terran engineering chief. As with previous years, she was apparently unconcerned. Yes, I am aware that this makes even less sense than most of their other traditions. However, at this point, we have no reason to believe that they are in fact screwing with us. As such, being that they are our closest and strongest allies, we have been ordered to simply indulge their eccentricities. Rolf Garoof, Alpha of the 181st Security Patrol, Ul Sector. End of story. Story number 2. Individually Free, written by Heavy Artillery BTR. What is it with humans and freedom? We never understood their innate desire to be free and to be an individual. You see, I'm a Deeg. We are a humanoid species, like all others, and we share a single hive mind. Our species was artificially linked together, as we had evolved much like the humans did, individually. Long ago, we had realized that freedom and individuality brought nothing but chaos. Individuals were selfish, greedy, violent, and every other negative adjective out there, so we became one. When we reached the stars, we encountered other hive minds. It didn't matter if they were furry, squishy, or covered in chitin. We'd all realized that the price of freedom was too great. We were then secure in our decision. After all, every other species agreed. How could we all be wrong? Well, almost every other species. Humanity was a curiosity. They were very young when we encountered them. They'd just begun testing their first blast of the night drive and seemed overjoyed at our arrival. Fleshy, bipedal apes greeted us as we landed on their planet. Their individuals greeted us. It took us a while to establish meaningful communications with the humans. After all, none of my species had spoken for a millennia. Why speak when our thoughts and desires were shared with all? Once the communication problem was dealt with, we had to delve into all the recesses of the mind to bring up the old spoken language. We began a cultural exchange. We were extremely curious about the humans. It had seemed that a prerequisite for any civilization to develop into a star-faring people was to create a hive mind if one did not naturally occur. After all, how else could a world's resources last unless there was a well-managed and allocated? Humans stood as an affront to every development theory our mind had theorized, and we wanted to find out why. As we exchanged cultures, we delved into their history. It was much like ours before the melt. Wars, poverty, and corruption plagued their past. We expected to find that their planet was above average in resource count. After all, how else could it sustain a large, warring population for centuries? However, a single orbital scan showed the amount of resources available on Earth was in fact below galactic average found on habitable worlds. It was shocking. How did the species survive to make it into space? While we were attempting to find the answer to the question, the humans proudly began showing off their cultures. Yes, cultures. Unlike us, unlike every other species, they lacked a single, unified culture. It seemed that walking a few paces to the left would bring us to another culture of humans, each with their own customs and traditions. However, Perhaps the most interesting thing about these humans was when they joyfully presented us with an archive filled with their history, including every governing document that they could find. As we read through it, we found their early civilization was ruled by simple hereditary hierarchies. That was not out of the ordinary for early civilizations of any species. Hierarchy was a natural state of things. However, as their history progressed, an odd development occurred. It started with a document called the Magna Carta, which cemented the rights of citizens within a sub-civilization known as England. It rebuked the idea that an overall government should have total say. It gave power to the individual. We continued on through their history until we came upon another document named Constitution of the United States of America. It was far more extreme than the Magna Carta. It limited the government massively, dispersing its power, and seemed to go out of its way to protect the individual. As we continued through the history, this idea of importance of the individual continued to grow and spread. Democracies, republics, rights, votes, freedom, they were all truly alien to us. How could these beings decide that the government was meant to protect the individual, not serve the better interests of all people? We asked this question to the human that was helping us through their history. He laughed. "But are you a communist?" he chuckled. Our translator indicated that was a joke. He looked us in the eye. "It is in our nature to be free. Without freedom, we're just a cog in some machine. Freedom lets us humans express who we are. It allows us to decide what kind of person we want to be. Sometimes freedom leads to bad things, yeah, but most of the time, it leads to people striving to make themselves better." Then we had our answer to the question on how humanity survived. In the mind, all are equal. Resources are allocated efficiently and all understand each other, and there are no secrets. However, with freedom and the individuality that came with it, there was competition. If our neighbor built a beautiful statue, then why couldn't we build a statue as well? One that was better than the neighbor's. This competition was exacerbated by human nature and urged them to develop rapidly. It became apparent that it was no coincidence that human nations that espoused freedom and individuality first came to dominate the planet for many a century. We placed the human development into relative time frame and realized that they had and were advancing far faster than any of the hive species, including us. Shaken by this discovery, we said our goodbyes to the humans and left for home. They shortly began expanding throughout their region of the galaxy. They built beautiful ships, grand monuments, and always greeted others with a smile. They entered trading agreements with other species, though a general complaint was how humans always try to get a deal to their advantage instead of the usual fair trade. We nursed them along their journey. In a way, we felt responsible to protect this crazy species. Regardless of how vast their domain was, they continued to push on the path of individuality, no matter how decentralized the authority of Earth became. We fully expected their civilization to collapse, and were prepared to step in and mitigate the damage. How could it stand without the proper, efficient management of a hive mind could provide? Yet they prospered, becoming rich and powerful, surpassing every hive mind in technology and ingenuity. Then Drugger's mind grew fearful. They never truly accepted the humans. Their own violent history, before melding, jaded the view on individualists. They fully expected for humanity to become violent, to begin conquering and warring like they had done throughout their history. When humans surpassed all others, the fear turned to panic. If they did not do something soon, humanity would be untouchable. Then Draga attacked humanity, urging the other minds to do the same. Some joined their quest. Others, like us, stayed out of it, though we supported the humans in secret with supplies and munitions. What unfolded next haunts the memories of the aggressive minds today. The humans, which had been so friendly and genial to us all, changed, almost in a single Earth rotation, into a cruel and deadly war machine. Their beautiful ships were replaced by black war cruisers, the grand monuments used to rally entire populations to the war effort. It was terrifying to see the creatures that had once laughed and joyfully celebrated our mere existence become monsters in dark metal armor, wielding weapons of war with an efficiently only matched by their cruelty. When the Indraga and their allies meet the humans in battle, they were decimated. True, their minds allowed for more efficient formations and strategies, but they lacked the unpredictability of the humans. To the humans, the minds were predictable. They could anticipate stratagems before they were fully formed in the mind, allowing them to easily adapt their military forces to the situation. Tactics varied between human commanders and leaders, making most effective strategies against them work only once. The minds only won one major battle in the war. Through overwhelming numbers, the only real strategy that the humans could not effectively adapt to. The human defenders of Greth were crushed, but even then, the victory was Pyrrhic. In which 3 million bodies were sacrificed to kill 10,000. The humans burned swaths of space, decimating worlds that resisted, occupying the rest. When the humans finally defeated the minds, they forced the minds to sign an instrument of surrender and reparations. Then, the humans withdrew and returned to the usual benign selves, leaving the ruined attackers as a testament and a warning. Now 20 standard cycles later, we ponder. Humans have established their superiority in the galaxy. There's even talks of a pan-galactic federation headed by humanity. As we look up at the stars, we wonder how humanity became imbued with such power. They were not overly intelligent or physically durable. They did not wage any war besides the Indraga conflict, so they did not gain much through military conquest. How had they surpassed us in every field, making our best technology look primitive compared to theirs? As we studied the stars above our world, we came to realize the answer. We may have knew it all along. A decision was made. We stood and reached behind our head with a small prick pain. We removed the transmitter in the back of our neck. All at once, the thoughts of our people vanished. We were alone in the night for the first time ever. At first, we felt fear, but then it subsided as the night curled around us, as we looked up into the sky, and we smiled and thanked humanity. They taught us the value of I. I understand now. I am an individual. And I am free. End of story. I just want to thank the T5 patrons and channel members. Bob the Dragon, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Estrella the Dreamer, Tryagain95, Fudigiol, Meridian117, Alithia, Jordan Bucksbaum, Angry Marine, Albarden Gusta, and Barkey. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.